I don't know about you, but I had a really hard time picking a top 3 because I feel
Mhm.
like as the season has progressed, there have been so many episodes where I've been like, "This is the best conversation I've ever had." And then we go to the next one and I feel the same way.
Mhm.
So, it was really hard to look back and try to be at least a little bit objective in picking out the ones that I wanted to highlight for my
Yeah.
top 3. Yeah, how
Yeah.
about for you?
So many good conversations. We had so many good conversations.
Welcome to the Best Part of Travel podcast brought to you by Arrival, where we take you inside the business of destination experiences. I'm Janelle Visser, and I'm here with Steve and Joyce.
Hi.
And today, we're going to be wrapping up season 2 and making way for new things to come in season 3. We're going to cover our favorite moments from the past season and end with a very special, and until very recently, super top secret announcement. So stick around for that. So, to kick things off, Stephen,
Mhm.
do you
Mhm.
have a word for the year?
I do actually. I recently wrote a sort of partial piece for Web and Travel, and they asked the same question: what is one word that I would use to describe 2026? Because one of the previous questions was, how optimistic are you on a scale of 1 to 10 about 2026? And I said 6 out of
Okay.
10, which was like the lowest score out of all the people in the list. And so people are like, "Oh, that doesn't sound very optimistic." But my word actually is hopeful. And the reason
Hopeful.
why hopeful,
I
yeah.
like that.
And the reason why I use that word is despite everything that we see in the media, everything that's going on in the world right now, I'm hopeful that that human nature, that the better aspects of humanity will shine through this year, and that we will see some positivity in the world, and that I remain hopeful. I'm an optimist by nature, and I look for joy and joyful moments whenever I can, and I'm hoping that more people will do that too, and that we'll see a more hopeful 2026. So how about you, Janelle? Do you have a word for this coming year, or for this year? Actually, we're in this year.
Well,
It's too late
yeah.
now.
Well, yeah, I do. And well, you took the question a little bit of a different direction than me, and that's fine because you're
Mm,
talking about the industry, and I was actually thinking about it more on a personal level. But I don't think I can come up with an industry word right now beyond what we've already talked about. Maybe it'll come to me at some point during this episode. But I'll share my personal word for the year and see how
mm,
that resonates with people. And the word that I chose for 2026 is ease. So
mm,
it's kind of like hopeful, but a little bit more along the lines of, 2025 was an incredibly difficult year for me. I know that for a lot of people that I know, it was just a hard year.
mhm.
It was a grinding kind of year. Hard stuff happened in people's lives, personally, in the world. Like there's been a lot going on. And it's not that any of those challenges have gone away, but more the sense of choosing to approach the new year with a sense of ease, with a sense of hopefulness. And the question, what if it's not worst case scenario? What if things go well? And just seeing how that changes my mindset when I approach things with the question of what if it was easy? And yeah, not to downplay the difficult things that are happening, but to kind of lean into, what is going well and what am I good at? And again, for me, it's more of a
Yeah.
personal thing, but I think it does align with that sense of hopefulness. And when you meet someone who is a person of ease, you feel it. You feel like I can breathe now. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my vibe right now. That's my
Yeah.
vibe.
I love that word. I love the word ease.
Going back to the last episode where we talked to Eric
Mhm.
about where people are at in
Yeah.
travel and this sense of there's more people that want to get offline. There's more people that want to get offline, that want to get out in nature, that want to get out of away from the algorithms and,
Mm.
just like take a breath of air in the forest. And I think that kind of we're pushing really hard and we're moving forward and there's lots going on, but also we're humans. We're not robots.
Yeah.
So we need to breathe sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Well, two great words. So thank you for that.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. But first, a message from our podcast sponsor for season 2.
Protect Group offers a service called Refund Protect. The way it works is that an operator or reseller offers Refund Protect at the time of checkout for an extra fee. usually around 10% of the ticket price. If the guest can't go because of some unforeseen circumstance, they request a refund through Refund Protect, and they get 100% of their money back, including the fee. The best part is the operator keeps 100% of their revenue, and they make a little extra. So to find out more, go to protect.group/best part of travel.
All right, so let's get into it. For our final episode of season 2, we are going to be reviewing some of our top episodes, and this is based on our favorites. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not based on an algorithm, it's not based on the number of views or anything like that, but it's based on what resonated the most with each of us. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go through. We're going to go through from number 3, number 2, number 1 for each of us. So we'll cover 6 episodes. And yeah, just use that as a nice way to wrap up the season and make way for what's coming next. And then just as a reminder, at the end, we have a special exciting announcement. So don't run away. You're going to want to hear this. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So
All
this
right.
is based purely on vibes.
Purely on vibes. Purely on
Purely
vibes.
on vibes. That's it's like what good vibes. Good vibes
Good
only.
vibes.
This is the good vibes only episode.
Yeah. Well, I think there's room for all the vibes. But yes, we're going with what stood out to us maybe the most from the season. And it's hard though. I don't know about you, but I had a really hard time picking a top 3 because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like as the season has progressed, there've been so many episodes where I've been like, this is the best conversation I've ever had. And then we go to the next one and I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really hard to look back and try to be at least a little bit objective in picking out the ones that I wanted to highlight for my
Yeah.
top 3. Yeah. How
Yeah.
about for you?
So many good conversations. We had so many good conversations. And that's really what I'm looking forward to in season 3 is more of these types of conversations, like meaningful, really interesting, just getting to know the people who we're talking to as well on a
Yeah.
personal level, not just talking business, because you can hear about business at any conference or whatever, but these are people that work and are passionate about what they do in this industry. And they're also just great people. Just kind of getting to know them a little bit is really meaningful.
Let's get into it.
Yes.
What's your number 3 episode? And we're going in reverse order, right?
Reverse order. Yes.
Yeah.
So my number 3 episode is the private, personalized, and global episode with June Chen from Context Travel. Douglas actually did the interview for that one, and then we added our sidebar comments.
Okay, well, we'll add more sidebar comments, but let's play the clip
Yep.
first and then we'll talk about why it's your favorite.
Yes.
Here we go.
So the no OTA topic, that's a super interesting one. So that's, I think, certainly among the Arrival community, that's the exception, not the rule. Yeah, tell us a bit more. So is it simply because of the nature of the marketplace? Is it the commissions that put you off, or is it not the right channel for a context product? What's the reason for working with no OTAs?
Yeah, I would say that typically the people, it varies, right? We have a lot of luxury travel advisors that first come to us, and the first time they hear about us, they say, "Oh, how are you different from a Viator?" Or "Are you just, your platform looks really cool. Is it the same?" And no, we're a brand, we're an operator, we're owning all these experiences. We're not just an aggregator of supply. And then we say, have you had fantastic experiences on these platforms? Yes. Have you had some really crappy ones too? Yes. So how do we close that gap in quality, and how can you trust us? So for us, it's really about not getting lost in the noise and finding the right, curating that experience. Context isn't for everyone. If you're simply looking to hop on, if you're perfectly fine to do the fast pace, I just want to take a couple of TikTok photos for TikTok or Instagram, and I want to check off these places on the bucket list and visit the landmines. Feels like a landmine sometimes. I want to visit them just to check things off. That's not, and I want to do it at the lowest possible price. That's not the type of guest that's going to be happy or have a great experience in a context tour, right? You can get a cheaper experience elsewhere, and you can certainly check things off a list a lot faster than you can if you're going around, if you're on a bus tour around a city. These are meant to be slower. These are meant to engage in deeper conversation and not just have someone entertain you from a megaphone.
But what about that kind of rising, especially kind of younger, more affluent traveler that's doing everything digitally, doing everything online? They're booking some things on OTAs, and I do see a lot of upscale product on some of the OTA platforms. And also, I've been hearing from them as well, like they're doing more on the private tour side as well. Is that so? You really don't feel there's a market there for you?
I mean, it's not that we're not on any platforms, right? We mentioned Project Expedition earlier. Rob Keane, we've done a partnership with him, so we're on there. We look for ways to.
But they're like 99, I think,
But
of
that's
our travel
advisors.
agents.
That's
Yeah,
advisors,
yeah,
yeah. But
yeah,
in terms
yeah.
of, I do think that perhaps there's ways to get into. Right now, we have. It's all about trade-off opportunities, and you mentioned 60,000. I think there's 100,000 or something U.S. travel advisors out there right now, and we've barely penetrated that. We're growing at a really fast clip there. We're a known entity. We're a brand that's recognized. And it's usually not as simple as plug and play, even with the OTAs. You're managing inventories. If you have the API connections, it's quite a heavy lift actually to manage that inventory across all these distribution channels, right? And right now we just want to make sure that we're focusing time and effort on the ones that are the best fit for us, right? Who knows? Maybe in a couple of years' time, we might be talking and be like, okay, I've got like 10 or 15% on on an OTA. That's not the world we're focused on right now. In terms of like when people think about finance and travel more generally, they usually picture two very different worlds, right? On the one side, you've got, numbers and markets. What the heck's that? On the other side, you have experiences and memories. And actually, it's very much the same business, right? We're in the business of protecting something scarce and precious, right? In finance, it's money. In travel, it's time. Right. And so financial advisors, they're fiduciaries, right? Stewards of their clients' wealth. And I think, what about if more and more travel companies really took the same approach? They see themselves as fiduciaries of their travelers' time, right? They're not just service providers. Like, these are guests I mentioned earlier. They're expecting their holiday to be the best 2 weeks of their year. Maybe they're entrusting us with their once in a lifetime trip, right? Every hour spent, it's an investment that they'll never get back. So we can bring some of finance's discipline into travel, like things like risk management, personalization. Two financial portfolios are never created equal. Transparency, long-term incentives. And the more we do this, we build more trust, we deliver more value, and we just make the industry, I think, a lot more resilient. Like, money can be regained at the end of the day, but time can't, right? And so I think it really makes our industry such an important investment industry in the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why did you pick those clips, and why did you pick this episode?
Yeah. Well, what I thought was really interesting was she talks about OTAs, and she talks about, and this comes up a lot in this particular episode, is the fact that that context doesn't distribute through OTAs. And I think that really, for me, resonates a lot with operators, because we see in data that OTAs are the fastest growing sales channel for operators. And we saw in hospitality that OTAs really took over distribution for hotels, and as a result have really put a lot of pressure on hotels in terms of pricing and all kinds of other things. And operators are, I think, to some degree worried that the same thing will happen in tours and activities. And this is an example of a company that has managed to grow and scale without using OTAs at all, which is really unheard of. So for her to focus on, she talks about prioritizing quality, that it's about that the OTAs don't really work for them because of the kind of bespoke nature of their tours and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot there that other operators can learn from in terms of how to structure themselves for better distribution without the need for OTAs, or at least use OTAs sparingly or in a way that benefits them from a revenue standpoint. The second one was, I love the way that she described travel advisors as having a fiduciary duty to protect their clients' time.
Yeah.
Because when you think about what is the most precious commodity, what is the most precious thing that we have in this life? It's time, right? When we
Yeah.
give our time to someone, we can give money, right? We can donate to charities, we can do all that kind of stuff. But when we donate our time, or when we commit our time to doing something, that is something we can never get back. You can never get that time back. And so the idea that if we approach how we deal with customers, how we deal with our guests in a way where we are being protective of their time and making sure that their time is well spent and it's an investment in their future. Joe Pine talks about this in the
Yeah, I was going to
transformational
say this
economy
is
too, right?
bringing up all the
Yeah,
reminiscing about the Joe Pine conversation.
yeah, so it comes up again is that you can never get that time back. So I
Yeah.
would love for operators to start thinking in terms of not just like value, right, in terms of dollars, but how meaningful is that time that their guests are spending with you, and is it really good quality time spent? I think she talked about those two things. Those were the two things that really stuck out for me in that episode. How about you, Janelle? What's your number 3?
My number 3, it was honestly, I had such a hard time choosing, but I feel like when I was thinking back to how I felt about each of the episodes, this is one of the ones that had me just super jazzed up. And so the episode is the AI episode that we did with Jeanette
Mm.
Roosh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll play a couple clips and then we can talk about it.
It's the perfect moment for, attraction providers who, whether or not you are involved with AI at this moment, this is the moment for you to get involved with it. I think we're past, the first 3 years of everything being really imperfect. Probably my entire first year of exploring and experimenting with AI was just figuring out workarounds. I want it to, something very important with AI is giving it context so that it's answering your questions based on facts and not on whatever it makes up. So there were a lot of limitations around how much context could, any of these tools hold at one time while working for you. So I'm like spending all my time figuring out, if you do this, then you can cheat, and get it to look at a website without knowing it's looking at a website. Stuff that now you don't have to deal with because these tools are ready for the office. They're all working rapidly on these connectors that, goodness, if you are in the Google Workplace suite, get a Gemini Pro account and you will get help answering your emails inside of the Gmail platform, writing first drafts of copy and text, pulling in all of the information that is currently in your Google Drive. Like the tools are now designed to work with a great deal of context at one time, which makes it much more plug and play for a small business owner. So I don't think it's a huge barrier to entry still at this point. All
Yeah.
it takes is curiosity.
Well, I imagine your job didn't exist a few years ago.
No.
Your job title was it chief AI officer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a new one.
I think just on a personal level, I think it's really cool to see a woman in that position at
Thank
Brand
you.
USA, because most of the people that I've talked to about AI are guys and they're great, but it's like the tech thing where, it's usually more rare to find female leadership in tech and now in AI. So personally, I find that inspiring. Do you want to say anything on that note?
I do.
Yeah.
I do because
Okay.
because I agree. And thank you for bringing it up. And I have a big kind of axe to grind at the moment about female adoption of AI, because Harvard Business Review released a study in April where they did a meta study of over 200 studies that had been done around the world about AI adoption. And I mean, they looked at big populations and very specific populations and at work and for personal use, and just across the board, they saw through all of these studies that women were lagging behind men in adoption of AI by about 20 points. And there's zero reason for that. We all got access to the technology at the same time. There is no reason, but there are some hypotheses on why that is happening. One of the hypotheses is that women are frequently taught that there's a right and a wrong way to do things, and that you need to follow the rules to do things correctly. And perhaps that is in opposition to what might be considered a more male's mindset that, is embraced in tech, right? Move fast and break things. And I think, the reverse of that, my husband will tease me occasionally that I'm out of the cast members of Friends, like I'm a Monica. And I'm like,
Okay.
oh, really?
Really?
I don't think that's a compliment. Ew. He's like, what, you want to be one of those two other girls? No. But the thing about Monica that kind of is like, oh, I don't want to be her because she's a goody, right? She's a rule follower. But then I'm like, I also kind of am secretly a rule follower. I don't want to be accused of cheating. And a lot of talk around AI is connected to that word of cheating. And so I think it's permeated our heads a little bit. And we have to fight back and remember that if we work for a nonprofit, like me, I work for a DMO, we are stewards of public money. So do we want to spend 7 hours on a mindless task or 7 minutes on it? I think we have a responsibility to spend our funding as responsibly as possible. And I think that includes using AI where it makes sense to do so.
So what were your takeaways from that? Why those particular clips?
Yeah. So, well, just in general, this episode, it was such a good conversation with Jeanette. We had so much fun with it. And I think that is what stood out to me is just this topic, AI, technology. It's a hot topic, but if you don't have super tech passionate brain, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed and it can be easy to kind of tune out to it. And Jeanette just made it so accessible. And she approaches it in such a fun, kind of light way that is also very practical. And so I found that really, really inspiring. She talks a little bit about, encouraging tour operators and attractions that this is the moment to get involved with it. All it takes is a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of time figuring out how to save ourselves time. And so, yeah, I found that aspect of it really inspiring. And then I wanted to share the other clip where she talks about women in tech. And this is a recurring theme, right? We've talked about this many times where, women in particular are not fully represented at the leadership levels of tech companies and in travel tech, it's the same. And so she was super excited to talk about that. And I was always nervous to ask her because I didn't want to make a thing of it. Like I feel like it should almost be something you don't even have to comment on at this point. But what she shared about how women are behind in AI, embracing AI, there's no reason for that. Like it's open to everyone. And everyone basically at the layman's level started 3.5 years ago or 4 years ago now or wherever we are. And so just that inspiration, not to be held back by this sense of needing to do things exactly the right way, but to embrace that curiosity and embrace that move fast and break things mentality of figuring things out along the way. So I found the whole thing with her really inspiring and encouraging, and I wanted to resurface it again. Yeah, because I keep coming back to that idea of, you know what, don't worry if you don't have it perfect. It's about figuring it out. It's about being curious. It's about learning and making little incremental changes and having fun with it. It doesn't have to be a serious, intense thing.
That was a really great episode. And I think the thing I took away from that was, along with what you just talked about, is being intentional and thoughtful about how you use AI, right? Given the impacts that AI has on the environment and on infrastructure and electricity costs and land use and all kinds of stuff, there are some serious concerns around the wide scale implementation of AI. And, I think each of us as individuals who will be using AI in some way, shape, or form, if you're using Google, if you're using anything now, AI is baked in, is just understanding that everything that you do has some impact and thinking to yourself, do I really need to use AI for this? Sure. Anyway.
Well, and I think it's about balance too,
Yeah.
because we talked in the last episode with Eric again. We talked about people have this desire, this almost more urgent desire this year to get outside and to get out into nature and to have offline experiences because it's overwhelming. The AI, the pace that AI is changing things is overwhelming. And so within the travel industry, are we using AI? Yes. Are people using AI? Yes. But also, where is the balance between using it in positive, practical ways, but also leaving space for humans? And I think this is where travel experiences has such an edge because the people who want to get outside and meet other humans are going to go on tours and they're going to travel and they're going to do experiences and activities and things like that. So
Yeah.
there is a sense of balance, I think, that we need to remember. Let's move on to number 2.
Yes.
What was your second most favorite episode?
Yeah, my silver medal episode of the season
Yeah.
was Moments, Moolah, and Multi-Day Tours. So it was the conversation with Travis from Tour Radar and Erica from We Travel. And the reason why I like that one is just because I'm a technology nerd. So I love just talking about, and there's so much crossover with where Tours and Activity was a bunch of years ago. Just love to see where Multi-Day is going. There's a few clips here, one from Travis and a couple from Erica, and then we'll come back and chat about them.
So what are you really excited about right now in Multi-Day?
That's a leading question because we just launched what we call Tour Radar Moments. And it basically is exactly what I was just describing of connecting user-generated content to bookable products, all within an app or, through one single link, a person can view a reel and then be booking that exact tour that a person went on. So we just feel that there's such a improvement in conversion, improvement in trust, tapping into new audiences of micro influencers who maybe have 5,000, 8,000 type followers, but they have a loyal following who, if they've done a trip or they've been on something, there's going to be a lot of trust then to go and book that. So yeah, we're very excited about Moments. The reception, both from our customers as well as the industry, has been amazing. And we feel it's the way to get out a little bit of the Google ecosystem because we're all very, very dependent on it. And I think we're all trying to work out how do we acquire customers from different parts of the online world or the mobile world or the AI world, whatever it is. And we're pretty excited by that by now.
Yeah, I would say at the core where the problems that We Travel is trying to solve is really taking it from the selling side to the while you're on the trip, and then the supplier payments piece. I think We Travel started with a focus really on the booking and payments and has evolved slowly to take on more of the needs that operators have. So I would say yes, definitely starting with the bookings and payments and then helping with on the conversion side, adding additional tools like the itinerary builder, and now going into the supplier payments. So I think the scope will just get more broad, which I think is exciting because the needs are super broad for these companies.
Yeah. And there's a lot of those operators that are out there probably, and we don't know about them. I think that's the other thing. It's similar. There's a lot of overlap in terms of the distribution of the companies that are out there, not the product, but where the companies are located. Are you finding that the majority of these companies are in, areas like South America, Africa, APAC, or are you finding that these are companies that exist in the UK and the US, but are doing business in those destinations? What's the mix there? And how are you finding these customers? How are they finding you, I guess, is the other question.
Yeah, great question. So I would say we see all around the world that there's multi-day tour operators, and there's of course different types. There's some that are bringing customers from one country to another. There's some that are actually operating like a DMC that's actually operating in a specific destination. There's student travel companies. There's all these different segments within the industry. And so we're seeing that it's really pretty broad as far as where they're actually located. And as far as if we're seeing how we're actually finding these companies, we're very proactive. So we're reaching out, we're looking at who is a good fit for WeTravel, like who could benefit from the platform, and then we proactively reach out. But we do also see that a lot of companies are discovering us, whether from another competitor of theirs that they see is using the platform, or they discover our content. We had a summit last week where we had over 3,000 people attend. And I think there's different ways that companies are discovering WeTravel. And then the third way I would say is because we have this supplier network that's growing, we see that a company is using WeTravel, they get their suppliers to join the WeTravel Partner Hub, and then they think, oh, maybe actually I can also use this platform because it's really easy for me to receive payments from the partner that I have. So I think there's a lot of network effect to be had there too.
So talk to me a little bit about because you mentioned travel advisors, right? Travel agents or travel advisors.
Yeah.
And we know, looking at who travel advisors work with, that they generally work with more affluent travelers that are looking for, like you said, bespoke, custom, personalized experiences, or more meaningful, passionate, interest-based travel. How does the platform support multi-day operators that want to sell through travel agents? Is that a big market for them? I would imagine it probably is, given that they're a little bit more bespoke and it's hard to book that online.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of different ways that travel agents will work with tour operators. There's also travel agent networks or host agencies with that like empower a lot of different travel agents at scale with their group pricing. So we see a lot of different ways that they're able to use WeTravel. We have flexible permission levels so that travel agents can just have access to the one trip that they're booking, for example. We also see that with our like partner network and the supplier payments that companies can or tour operators can pay travel agents their commission that way. So I'd say there's a lot of ways that we can enable travel agents to be able to work with companies using WeTravel, or they can use it themselves if they're taking payments from the customers directly.
Okay, so can you tell us why you chose this episode and these particular clips stood out to you?
Yeah, so the first one from Travis is him talking about moments, right? It's about the initiative with Tour Radar to use social content to drive bookings by using influencers and building. He talks about trust and that people trust these influencers. Yeah, and that's my skepticism coming through. But, hey, I'm hopeful. And it's interesting because social commerce and video commerce is something that has been around for a little while, especially in Southeast Asia and China. It's very popular and does very well, but doesn't do as well in North America, Europe. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think it's risky, and I love to see companies do things that are innovative and different and take chances with stuff like this. And that's what they're doing. And I love to see it. The other clips from Erica, it was just interesting to hear about WeTravel because it's not a brand new platform, but it's new to us, right? But what they're trying to do is really challenging, and that is focusing on the selling side of multi-day, trying to deal with that side first before really dealing with the logistics side, because that's what drives revenue for operators. And if you can show them that they can make more money with multi-day, then they're more likely to stick with the platform and digitalize, which is something that is desperately needed in that segment. And then the second clip is about travel advisors and just selling through travel advisors and how they can do that, and how multi-day a lot of it is driven by relationships with travel advisors. Because I think that's something that we're starting to see as well, is that travel advisor community, especially with more affluent travelers, so the ones doing over 100,000, slightly older, 40 plus, because they're also looking at like passion-based multi-day type activities, more complex itineraries. That stuff's really hard to book online by yourself. So that demographic is turning to travel advisors in order to help them make those kinds of travel decisions. So the industry's always, since the early 90s, when Expedia and Travelocity and Orbitz and all of these OTAs showed up, everyone talked about the travel advisors going away. and they're still there, and they generate close to
Yeah.
$500 billion worth of bookings a year.
Yeah.
475 billion estimated worldwide in bookings from travel advisors. So it's still a big chunk of the market, and we never really talk about it because we focus so much on online. I love that because it's human to human.
It is.
Right?
I
That's
was
the
going to
other
say,
thing.
it goes back to that
It's
whole human
non-digital.
to
It's going
human
back to
thing.
human
Like,
to human.
do people want an AI planning their trip for them, or do they want a human who has some measure of trust to help them plan their trip? This has come up so much. I feel like this season, one of the themes has been this idea of trust. And there's so many episodes where it's come up organically, this idea of, how people are deciding what to do, who they trust with that information and with their desires and their hopes and their time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Janelle, what's your number 2 episode from season 2?
Yeah. Talking about multi-day, the
Mm.
one that I picked as my top number 2 is Intrepid Travel, the conversation with James, the CEO of Intrepid. So
Yeah.
we'll share a couple clips from that here, and then we can talk about it. So why do you think more travelers are getting interested in multi-day trips? Why do you think that is? Like, are you seeing an increased interest? You talk about growth.
And who are they?
Yeah.
Sure. Well, they're anyone. That's the first. That's the first one. I think the first thing, just in terms of the market's moving towards us, travelers want, or we're certainly seeing that travelers want deeper. They want more meaningful experiences beyond just ticking off destinations. So, small group travel offers structure, it offers flexibility, offers comfort, offers security, offers adventure all in one. And post-pandemic, the kind of ease and intentionality in travel planning were critical, and people wanted expert-led trips and reduced stress to be able to get out and see the world. And to having that real connection with locals, with guides, with fellow travelers is a major driver. So I think that's part of the reason why more and more people are moving to multi-day tours. Who are the customers? They're really diverse. We've got our core Intrepid Traveller, university-educated single female in her mid to late 40s who has a professional job, wants to go out and see the world, but wants to do so in the safety and security of a group. Our second one is that the baby boomer, 50s, 60s, kids have left home, worked really hard for 30 years. They don't want to go on the kind of traditional big tour. They want to get on that more immersive experience. So we're seeing good growth there, particularly in our premium product range. And then the third kind of key category is that first-time traveller. So our 18 to 30s program is growing very strongly at the moment. People are placing more focus around experiences over material possessions and about being able to get out and boast about the things that they're seeing. And it's not necessarily the iconic site, but it's off the beaten track place that only an Intrepid experience can take you. But ultimately, an Intrepid customer, whether you're 18 or whether you're 80, has the alignment of being curious, of being connected, and of being conscious and having a fairly kind of positive outlook on the world and a belief that getting out and having great travel experience is something that should be prioritized above and beyond anything else. So I think that's one of the reasons it's growing. And the other reason, of course, is just that natural evolution of the product offering that we have. So for example, our active travel range is growing very well as people place more importance on physical and personal well-being. So I think our active trips are up about 25% year on year, which is about to introduce, I think it's 28 new active adventures being launched for next year. We're introducing shorter escapes for people that are more pressured around either cost of living or around time conscious travel or limited paid time off. So we've got new short break travel offerings for people that want those kind of immersive Intrepid experiences, but want to do them a bit closer to home. We're seeing driver of people looking for that off the beaten track destinations. People are always asking me, James, where's the next place that Intrepid's going to open to? And I'm like, well, we operate to 116 countries, so I can't magic up another country, but those kind of far-flung places like Central Asia is showing real popularity at the moment. We're about to open our 32nd office in Uzbekistan early next year. So yeah, they're also some of the reasons why we're getting this kind of growth, because of that movement towards us and then that product expansion.
What gives you the most optimism about the future of the travel industry, whether that's in terms of sustainability or experiences sector or what? Where's the happy news?
For me, it's about human connection. We've lived in, for all of us who've the last 10, 15, 20 years or so, 20 years ago was the advent of social media, then our mobile devices taking over our lives. Now we're being pushed into certain algorithms. And unfortunately, there is a lot of bad thing that goes on. Mobile phones are supposed to make our lives easier, and they're actually often drawing us apart. And the news environment and news cycle does feel a little bit toxic and difficult. And geopolitically, that certainly feels the case. But I think ultimately what Intrepid does is we obsess about human connection, and we obsess about the beauty and the power of that, and about all of those things I said earlier, getting people out to see the world, to meet local people, to try the food, to experience their culture, to get a better understanding about their way of life. And that's what we do in the travel industry. We bring people together. We provide people with amazing experiences. And I just think increasingly, and certainly I'm the father of a 13-year-old son, and I don't want my son sat on his mobile phone. I certainly don't want him sat on FIFA, PlayStation 5, trying to get his football team to the top of the league, speaking to his friends. I want him out there experiencing the safari that we've just done in Southern Africa, where he gets to see the Big Five, or get to travel through China and talk to our Chinese tour leader about the kind of history of the beautiful country, or the great kind of pizza making class that we did in Italy. That's the power of what we all do in travel, is bring people together and provide human connection. And I think more and more, with the difficulties people are experiencing online, that there'll be more and more of a desire to have those human connections, particularly in the sense of the loneliness pandemic that is upon us as well. So that's why I'm hopeful. That's why I'm optimistic. I want Intrepid to be positioned strongly at the center of that. I believe ultimately that the world needs more intrepid people, and that's what myself and all of the team at Intrepid, the 3,500 people we have, we're squarely focused on trying to do that.
I love that. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. That was such a great episode.
I know.
You know, when we talked in the beginning about every interview is like better than the next interview.
Yeah.
That was such a great interview.
Yeah,
So what were your
takeaways
from that? Why those clips?
It's so hard. Honestly, I had the hardest time with this one, picking which clips to share, because there were so many good. Like, the whole episode is great. If you haven't listened to it, like, definitely listen to this one end to end. He has such great things to say about leadership, about the importance of having a diverse team, having diversity of different types, not only gender diversity or ethnic diversity, but also age diversity and experience diversity, and all different types at all levels of your organization, and how much stronger that makes your organization. He talks about, this idea of purpose versus profit. And Intrepid has really gone all in on being a B Corp and leading into the purpose side of things, but not at the expense of profit. Like, he shares that they've grown so much, and the numbers show that their approach has been highly successful for them on the revenue side of things, but also attracting the type of people who are interested in the purpose side of things. And it's really become their brand. All of that stuff, just such a great conversation. But one of the things that really stood out to me, we hear his take. The first clip I shared, we hear his take on why multi-day travel is having a moment right now, why people are really latching on to multi-day travel. But in the second clip, he shares a little bit more, a deeper kind of feeling or vibe, if you will, of why he thinks that's true. And he talks about the loneliness epidemic and this sense of people feeling disconnected from each other, despite the fact that we're so connected now, online connected, but personally disconnected. And so people getting off phones to have shared experiences in real life, and that's what Intrepid does. And there's a lot of companies that are doing that type of thing, but they do it really well. And I think it's a really great example for how this human connection piece can be done well on tour. And yeah, this whole idea of like putting the phone away, getting away from the algorithms, and connecting with humans in the local culture that you're visiting, and how that can make the world a better place. The more people, the more people that have those connection moments with people from other cultures, especially in the climate that we're in right now in the world, where there's so much fear and so much tension. It's like remembering that people in other countries and cultures are humans just like you, and we have more in common than what separates us. All that stuff, like, just find it really inspiring and really good to come back to when I'm feeling discouraged. So coming back to your note of being hopeful, this is the stuff that makes me feel hopeful. Yeah,
it's so interesting, because I was just thinking about the first travel conference that I went to in 2007 and how we interacted with each other at that conference without smartphones. I think I had like a Nokia something or other. There was no global roaming. There was no data. There was no Wi-Fi. There was none of that. And just how in such a short period of time, we have forgotten how to interact with each other without these devices.
Yeah.
We have become so dependent on them so quickly that we have forgotten what it feels like to interact with each other. And we have to force ourselves now, in the same way that Eric talks about in his episode with his camp, taking devices away from children, because we remember a time without those devices. So we can kind of reminisce and go, oh, I remember a time when we didn't have those devices. But these younger generations, Gen Z and, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta now, because we're into Gen Beta, these generations will not live a life without these devices.
Yeah.
And if it's having that much of an impact on us, imagine the impact it's having on them. So it makes those those one-on-one in real life human interactions so much more meaningful, so much more important to our mental health and to our social health. Yeah.
Amen.
To that.
So moving on to our number one episodes.
Yes.
Would you like the honors of going first?
Oh, yes. Okay. Drum roll. Pop-ups, Pinkmas, and Planning Ahead with Haley Ward from Hudson Yards and The Edge. I'll just say very quickly, I love Haley. She's awesome. She's a ball of energy. Here are the clips. How do you keep it fresh so that both it's consistent, that people expect it and they expect the quality, but also something new and exciting that gets them coming back to Hudson Yards every year for that same experience?
That's a really great question. I think we're lucky as part of the Hudson Yards neighborhood that we can have that tradition of Shine Bright and leaning into, that kind of event that repeats year on year. Of course, the shops and the restaurants have a number of different things they're doing as well to keep it fresh. But we think about then how can Edge complement, what we're doing in the greater neighborhood, what can help drive the audience, not only to our attraction, but for everyone in Hudson Yards and vice versa. And so we are always thinking about the latest trends. We always want to meet our audience where they are, but also what really resonates with people and what their takeaway is, what their memory is. How do we touch people's hearts? And I think that's what creates a memorable and successful attraction for most people. And so oftentimes we are planning in advance. We might not select a theme or an idea until closer to the time to make sure it is relevant and radiant in every sense of the word. But we are thinking about now, what are the dates that make sense, right? Do we start at top of November, mid-November, end of November? Like, where do you sit in that world? How long does it run? And of course, budget planning and all that fun stuff that happens around it too.
Right.
Yeah. Do you use research, or do you use like trend research and stuff like that to kind of figure out what's hot or what's coming up and things like that? Or do you just follow social media and see what influencers are talking about?
Or like, how much do people hate pumpkin spice this year versus last year? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an ongoing thing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm not a big pumpkin spice fan, but I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh, I'm a big pumpkin spice fan. I'm that girl, like I'm going to lean in. I think yes is the answer to all of these things. We try to have our fingers on the pulse of just about everywhere. We do research periodically throughout the year through independent third parties that help us understand not only our audience, but what the trends are, what's going well, what could be better, like all of that stuff that, of course, our research can do on site. And then we're paying really close attention to what all the hot topics are. What are the big movies coming up? Like Wicked is everywhere this fall, right? And was last year, I think. Things like that are major cultural moments. Certainly as we look ahead to 26, things like the World Cup. We're hosting the final here in New York City. And we have a number of games in addition to the final that will be hosted here too. So we're thinking about things like that. And how does that play into our overall strategy? And that guide maybe what an activation looks like over the summer. And, big cultural moments like that are hard to miss.
What do you see as the next big opportunities or areas of growth for Hudson Yards experiences and the Edge going forward? Are there any new markets you're excited about, or products or segments?
Yeah, no, I see nothing but opportunities next year, actually. We're really excited for our business to grow. Certainly, we're going to be leaning into more of those kind of experiences, that we saw this year, like our activations. We've been doing amazing things like candlelight concerts too, that ran all summer. We had amazing DJ nights with our partners. We did a pop up with Marquee Skydeck. And I think we had a lot of fun this year thinking about Edge as a performance place in the sky. And so thinking ahead to next year, then how can we iterate on that? How can we think about what it looks like in 2026? Huge new markets for us are luxury, things like launching our retail product right before the holidays here, and thinking about how we can extend those experiences into Edge in a new way. Certainly that market is growing too. The data tells us that market is one of the few that's exponentially growing in 25, and we expect it to do the same in 26. So we're leaning into that and thinking about how we can really amplify our event business. We do our amazing corporate happy hours. This past year, we had huge moments with companies like Samsung, where we had Dochi perform up on the deck, really major brand moments, of course, major performances too, in partnership with Tao, the Marquee nightclub. How can we think about that in big ways next year? How can we open that opportunity up to more people? Certainly all those event planners out there, you always are looking for these kind of really amazing, beautiful spaces that are different. And being able to invite them to our Sky Deck to offer those kinds of experiences in the new year is going to be really exciting.
Oh my gosh, I love Haley so much. That was such a fun episode, and I'm so glad you picked it. So why don't you share from your perspective why that one stood out to you? Why that's your gold medal winner?
Yeah. Okay. Number one, she's just such a ball of positivity. And how can you not listen to her and just end up smiling and laughing at every interaction like that? And the reason why I like the three clips, number one was about planning ahead. So just like thinking about trends, what you're going to choose next as like an installation side. I love the way that they think about that. The next clip is about what the future holds for Hudson Yards. So how they plan to do other, like, more events, more activities, what they'd like to see, how they can interact with the community more in order to bring some really fun, innovative things to the space, and turning that space into something totally different, right? So during the day, it's an observatory or observation deck, and then at night they partnered with a local club and with DJs to basically turn it into kind of a nightclub. And what an amazing space that would be for something like that. And I love dance parties, so you had me at dance party, right?
Yeah, she had me at Pink Hot Chocolate, but yeah, it was such a good representation of differentiation done well because, like she mentions there's how many observation decks in New York. And so how do those observation decks differentiate themselves and stand out? And that's such a huge question for our industry right now as a whole. There's so much competition. How do you stand out? And so I just thought it was such a great approach to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the innovative thinking, the creativity, and to see someone like Haley who is just so creative in the way that she thinks, and so open and thoughtful in terms of how she thinks about these things, right? How she can partner with local ice cream vendors and stuff like that to bring a fully immersive, differentiated experience to something that is at the heart of it's just an observation deck, right? So how do you turn that into something that is a truly memorable, immersive experience? And you do things like what Haley is thinking about. I love the way that she thinks. I love the way her brain works.
Yeah, definitely.
It's fun. She's got
it's very fun.
It's like a dance party in that brain, I think.
Amazing.
How about you, Janelle? What's your gold medal winning episode?
My gold medal winning episode. You know what? It wasn't even a contest. I chose purely based on which one was the most fun for me personally to record. And so I think it will come as no surprise if you've listened to all the episodes that I am choosing episode 2 because it was done live in person in Australia. And one of the segments was recorded literally on a ship on Sydney Harbor. So how could I not pick that? It was just the most fun episode to do. And I feel like it in some ways also kind of set the tone and the energy for the season because it happened so early in the season. So I will play a few clips from that. There's 3 totally separate interviews that happen in 3 totally different locations. So it's going to sound a little weird between the 3 of them, but we'll come back and talk about it at the end.
Tourism Australia did some research a while ago, and they identified people's passion points and why people actually will get on a plane and travel to different parts of the world. And they identified that cultural tourism and cultural experiences was one of the reasons why people would actually come to Australia.
And so the cultural attractions that are in your collective, they're not necessarily competing with each other for visitors. They're actually collaborating in order to bring people here in general. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think what's amazing about the collective is that they all, exactly as you say, they love collaborating together. They love being able to, showcase, for example, at the NGV, what they have to offer, which is the National Gallery Victoria, which is based in Melbourne. But they're also so supportive of the Queensland Art Gallery, Gallery of Modern Art here in Brisbane, because they're always telling a slightly different perspective. And they've got different exhibitions and they've got different art to show. So, yeah, it's a very collaborative collective that we have. And I think also the fact that we've got a variety of members. So I've just mentioned 2 of the art galleries that we've got, but we've also got the Melbourne Cricket Ground, we've got the Adelaide Oval, we've got Port Arthur Historic Site, we've got Fremantle Prison. So you can start to see that there's a range of attractions that are within the collective.
Right. And so within the collective, there's an experience element to it. So can you speak a little bit to that? What is the experience element to the attractions?
Sure. So the basis behind the collective is, or the premise behind the collective is that they all have these bespoke behind the scenes experiences.
Right.
So I mentioned before that it's a chance for the attractions to tell their Australian story. And so these experiences give visitors a chance to actually delve a little bit deeper into whatever the attraction has on offer. So they're generally led by an expert, whether it's a curator or a shipkeeper, or they're basically an expert who can really tell the story of the collections that are on show or the story behind the attractions.
Right. And so it's kind of taking it a little bit beyond just going to visit an attraction where you get to actually experience it in some immersive way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I know that Arival has done lots of research as well, and we know that travelers are really looking for that more immersive, more meaningful experience, that they're wanting to be able to walk away knowing a lot more about an attraction or a destination. So the experiences that we have available at Cultural Attractions of Australia really offer that opportunity for people.
We're coming to you live from the middle of Sydney Harbor, and I have here with me Miriam. And Miriam, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know where we are?
All right. Well, hello, my name is Miriam. I'm one of the shipkeepers and custodians for the tall ship Diveskin. So currently we are sailing in the middle of Sydney Harbour. Sydney Harbour Bridge in the background, the Opera House, and we managed to find a dry spot. Yeah. Because it's been raining this morning, and we're going for a sail and introducing a wonderful lady and her team to what we do with the ship. It's one of the few tall ships in the world that do day sails, and one of the few tall ships here in Sydney Harbour that is 16th century, and we're the only one, and we're currently doing what we do best, and that's sailing.
And so, obviously, we're doing one of your visitor experiences right now. Can you tell us a little bit about what types of visitor experiences you offer on the ship?
So on the ship, when we're not sailing, visitors can come and just learn about history. And twice a week we go out and offer sails. We also have a school program on board because we're part of the Australian curriculum. So the history of the first Europeans coming to Australia get taught on board as well. So we're quite versatile with what people want to sign up.
So let's talk about the Sydney Opera House. What does the visitor experience at the Sydney Opera House entail? What does that look like?
Yeah, our visitor experiences at the Sydney Opera House are multifaceted. So we have everything from performing arts to our front of house services to guided tours and experiences, including backstage tours or something a little bit more luxury and bespoke. But then we also have heaps of food and beverage outlets on the site as well.
And so let's talk a little bit more about the guided tours and experiences.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it a standard tour, or do you have special VIP experiences? What types of things do you offer?
Yeah, we have essentially tours and experiences for every type of traveller, whether they are a family travelling together and they're wanting to do maybe one of our 1 hour guided experiences, which occur every single day. And we also offer it in multiple languages as well. So 7 different languages. We actually have that tour in. Or we do have things that are a little bit more bespoke or showing you a different side of the opera house that not everyone does get to see. So that is our backstage tour that we run every morning. That we also have an architectural tour that really deep dives into that nuance of the building, the architecture, the history of it. And we run those on Saturdays. And then we have other kind of really of those VIP experiences that you were mentioning. So
Yeah.
we offer types of experience packages that complement our tour with those dining products so that it's that perfect, iconic opera house night out in Sydney in general, and a really nice way to showcase such a significant cultural icon and, you know, tick off that classic Australian experience.
So Janelle, 3 totally different things,
Yes.
you know, all kind of focused on tourism into
Yeah.
Australia. Talk a little bit about those,
Yeah,
about
so
why
s-
those clips in particular.
So starting with Annabelle, she's with Cultural Attractions of Australia, and they have this whole thing set up for different cultural attractions to collaborate with each other to offer next level up experiences. And so one of the reasons I was really excited to do this episode in the first place is we're talking about this in the industry, you know, how attractions are offering more VIP experiences, how attraction visitors want more things that, you know, things that are personal for them, things that are more unique, things that are more niche. And how do you find the balance of very large attraction in some cases with niche experiences, and how do you bridge that gap? And so Annabelle talks about how the attractions are collaborating together to bring people not just to their attraction but to Australia, because it's far from most places.
Mhm.
So they work together to bring people in, and then they get to kind of share the benefits of having the inbound tourism that draws in. So I loved Annabelle's approach to the idea of collaboration in general. And then, of course, the conversations that happened at the Sydney Opera House with Kat and on the ship with the ship keeper were so much fun to do, and just to hear their unique perspectives on their attractions. And yeah, so I just think that was such a fun way to do an episode as well. I know the recording from the ship was maybe not the best audio quality, but it was fun to be out there on the harbor recording a podcast. I feel like that just injected for me so much energy and passion into doing the rest of this season, to be able to tell stories of people like that who are out there doing really cool things and creating these really great experiences and being really creative with how they do the experiences. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just go to the Sydney Opera House and watch a show. It's how can we make this experience unique for people and level it up for people so that it brings in people from abroad, but also brings maybe more local domestic tourism coming back again and again. Yeah, all in on location filming things for the podcast. That was very fun. We need to do more of that.
We need to do more of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's plan to do more of that. So
So now it comes down to, this is a great segue actually
Yes.
to our secret announcement. Are you ready?
yes, what is this secret announcement?
Wait, I'll be right back. I needed a prop for the announcement. Okay. The next Arrival event location
Is
is Australia.
Wow.
We're going to
Okay.
Australia.
We're going down under.
We're going down under. I'm so excited.
Any details yet?
The details I can share in general. We are going to Australia. It's June 2026. The dates are the 22nd to the 24th, and we're going to Brizzy, otherwise known as Brisbane. Very excited. Very excited.
And
I
that is
can't.
in Queensland?
Yes.
Is that right?
It is north of Sydney. So in June will theoretically be warmer.
It should be warmer.
Question
It's
mark?
closer to the equator. Yeah.
It's going to be awesome.
This is one of those cases where you go north, you get closer to the equator.
Yeah, if you're a northern hemisphere person,
If you're a northern hemisphere
you have
person,
to flip
you
the
have to
script
think
a
in
little
reverse.
bit. But super excited to be going to Australia. It's the first time Arrival will be doing an event in Australia, and I know we've had a lot of people come from Australia to our events, but we're really excited to be there and to be in the heart of that. And New Zealand, my happiest place, is just right there, and also the whole APAC region is within reach from there. So
Yeah.
really excited to be bringing this back to APAC and to be bringing it in particular to Australia.
Fun.
So
Yeah.
more details will be out on the website if they aren't already. And you can check that at Arival.Travel.
Awesome. Well, on that
Awesome.
note,
Well, as we wrap up season 2, very excited to have things to look forward to in season 3. Of course, before Australia, we're going to Valencia. And yeah, we're
Spokane.
going to be continuing the same rhythm of these episodes, just with a new number, and having some of these really great conversations. And we'll see where we get by the end of season 3, what the best episodes will be.
We've got a whole year to look forward to. I'm excited and I'm hopeful.
Hopeful, yes.
Hopeful, yes. And maybe it will be, we'll bring some balance.
Some
balance is very
balance.
important.
Some
Yes.
balance.
I'm all about
I
balance
like
in
that
the
word.
force.
I think by this point in the episode, I've settled on balance for my word for
Yeah.
the industry. But also, I am happy to share my personal word with all of you and wish you a sense of ease going into this year. Yeah.
Yes, that's lovely. Thanks, Janelle. And on that note, I think we are at the end of this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and colleagues, and check out all of our great upcoming events, including Australia Now, at Arival.Travel. Thanks so much, Janelle.
Thanks, Stephen, and see you in season 3.
See ya.